Hello and welcome to another halftime podcast brought to you by halftimecuppa.com. My name's Danny Cook and we have another fantastic show. Some would even say super podcast lined up for you this evening. And it's going to be heated. There's going to be lots of opinions. Let's see how it goes. It's going to be a really, really good one. I'm definitely sure of that. And joining me on the panel tonight, we do have Marc Cribbin. How are you, Marc?
I'm good. I'm all good, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, good. You're our resident Chelsea fan, so that's important to note for tonight's discussion. And then joining Marc, we have Ese, our in-house Arsenal fan. How are you doing, Ese?
In-house Arsenal fan. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm an Arsenal fan anymore after this.
Oh, that's a teaser of what's to come, I guess. No, thank you for that, Ese. And then obviously joining us a little bit later on, he's coming straight in from his coaching gig. We have Charlie Pumfrey, again, our resident Brighton fan, to give a different perspective on things. So, gents, thank you obviously for giving up your time. This is a really, really topical discussion. We are talking about the formation of the European Super League, or what is just called the Super League. I want to get your thoughts, by the time this podcast goes out and how quick this news story has sort of evolved. Things may well have changed to those that are listening, but it's at the time of recording, it's Monday, April 19th, 7 o'clock. We've had almost 24 hours of this news now. So, Marc, what's your sort of gut reaction when you first heard about the Super League?
Well, I don't really know too much about it still, even after 24 hours. But the interesting points I've heard is the players who will be playing in the Super League are going to be banned from playing in competitions like the World Cup and stuff. So that's a bit of a... Yeah, I'm just fully against it in that respect.
Sorry, really, I just wanted to make it clear. Are you against the...
I'm against the Super League completely.
Oh, okay. So you're not against the ban on players?
But it's from what I've heard from other people as well. It's just basically just down to money. It's not even, it's more. There's no competitiveness in football anymore. There won't be any fight for relegation or promotion or Europa League spots or whatever. So I think that's just going to go completely for teams in the Super League.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Ese, what was your thoughts when you first found out about the Super League as well?
Honestly, I can't say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised in the slightest. I support big clubs. I say I support the big clubs. I say Arsenal, but since the news came, I was just like, yeah, football's gone to the dogs. Football has actually gone to the dogs.
Do you think, obviously you phrased it quite well, I guess, and you've been very concise in terms of saying it's gone to the dogs. Is there any way that this situation could be viewed as a bluff for these clubs in the hope that they're trying to get this better deal with UEFA? And obviously, at the time of recording, I believe actually the new and improved supposed 32 team Champions League format has passed unanimously.
36 teams.
Yeah, sorry. Do you think it was a bluff for that, Ese?
I hope so. I hope it's just the big clubs trying to pressure UEFA. And in fact, this reminds me of a time in rugby, was it, where the English clubs and the French clubs were pressuring the European Rugby Committee to change the format of the European Champions Cup because they weren't getting a fair deal. And so what happened? They did change it ahead of the 2017-18 season, but still, it was an Irish club and a Welsh club that still ended up winning the tournament, and hence why there's a current joke going around. It's the Pro 14's fault.
Just in terms of that format, then I'm going to cross over to Mark. That format is obviously an interesting one. I was watching Sky Sports earlier. Obviously, the Monday Night Football just before we came on air, and they're talking about, is it 15 founding clubs, none of which can get relegated. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said earlier, I mean, there'd be no competitiveness in the Super League because nobody can get relegated. It's nobody fighting for relegation. You saw West Ham there the other day. They beat Newcastle. Sorry, they lost to Newcastle. Newcastle are obviously fighting for relegation. It's something to fight for. And then West Ham are fighting for a European spot. There'd be nothing to fight for in this Super League if it goes ahead.
Do you think that would, obviously, like, let's looking at it from a club's perspective, why have these owners done this? Well, they were debating on that obviously it's the Americanization of football. The franchises like the World Baseball Series and all those kind of sports where there's no relegation involved. And that gives the obviously the owners that security that they know the money's going to come in.
It's all money, yeah. All money.
And I mean, obviously, money is a big topic that we're going to come back to. But just sticking with the relegation theme and more so the format, do you think that because they're talking about potentially inviting teams in as well? Like, can you see why a team would want to join that league?
I don't think so.
Not a founder.
I don't think any team would even want to join it. I don't even know why so many clubs have agreed to do it. You see, like, there's bigger clubs around Europe have refused to join it. I think I recently heard that Porto refused to join it. And I can see why, because I don't think it's. No, I think as I said earlier, it's ruining football, I think.
And let's bring in Ese again. This money side of it is clearly a motive for these teams. I think I saw somewhere there was a figure bandied around about 3-point-something billion being given to clubs or something like that, or as part of it. What's your thoughts, Ese? The money, is it really going to ruin football for good? That kind of figure.
Honestly, yes, we know that at the end of the day, football is about money and making even more money than clubs already are. But I think what's going to happen is that fans will just not attend 10 matches because they're just sick and tired of being treated like cash cows.
Do you think that will then see or will allow more of the so-called football tourists to attend? And do you think that there's appetite for it as well, Ese?
Yeah, of course there would be an appetite for it. Like, for instance, fans from, I'd say, the Middle East, or fans from America, or fans from Australia, they definitely enjoy that sort of thing because that's something they're used to because they watch the NBA or the NFL. That has a similar structure.
It's certainly some kind of something familiar and similar to what they're used to, I guess. Marc, just going back to you then, do you think that there's other than the money being reported, is there any other incentive, do you think, for these teams to be involved? And just to sort of jump in, I was reading somewhere that the way the money breaks down is that the founders of this league would supposedly earn more than a team coming in, understandably. But what I think I saw a breakdown of what it could be and what it could mean is a team, say, for example, like Arsenal, who are the founding team, could finish bottom, obviously not get relegated because there's no relegation, and could actually end up earning more from the tournament through their dividend or their split of it, than a team that's invited in who goes on to win it. What's your thoughts there, Marc?
I think it's just money, really. I don't think anybody would have any reason to join it other than the money, really, to be honest.
Okay, and right on cue, we have our very own Brighton fan, Charlie Pumfrey. Hopefully he's here. Hopefully he can hear us. Oh, there he is. Oh, wow. I'm loving the Brighton merch.
Oh, yeah, I've just realised the hat and the jumper. It's more that my hair's a mess, but yeah. I hope you can excuse
How you doing?
that.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, I don't know how good any of us are today, but realistically, all right.
Yeah, I mean, you've joined at a great time, actually, because we haven't gone too far into this discussion. It's changed. We haven't gone too far into this discussion in terms of what the Super League means. We've spoken about the money, and you've just come in just at the end of this discussion in terms of the money being quoted. And the fact that a team that finishes bottom, who could be a founding team, would earn or could earn more money than a team that's being invited in and wins the tournament. What does that mean to you?
I think realistically, it means that they're not interested in the footballing side of the competition. That they're only really worried about the spectacle and the product. That it's a case of, actually, why on earth would we run a competition that's that worried about competition? Because you just wouldn't run one. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't take teams out of leagues where it's already competitive. I mean, if they were that worried about it, they would have invited a Leicester. They'd have made sure to get PSG and Bayern Munich. You wouldn't have done it without them. But the fact they haven't, everything I read and everything I see strikes me as it's filled with that arrogance that you find that comes with money, with billionaires. It happens with pretty much every example you can find, especially in sports ownership. It's that arrogance that comes with it. You read the statement that was put out by every club yesterday. We want to help everyone in the football pyramid. You hear Joel Glazer talking about how this is a fabulous opportunity for the football. I am paraphrasing slightly, so these aren't the exact words. Please don't sue me. But it feels like there's this underlying arrogance that, well, we're Man United. We're Barcelona. You'll come and watch. Whether you think you will or not is irrelevant. You'll turn up at some point. Whether you turn up straight away or whether you turn up in a year's time, it's irrelevant. Our pockets get lined either way. So I think there's an underlying arrogance there, and they're going to have a culture shock because if it doesn't work, they're not coming back. If they're kicked out of the Premier League, that door is not going to be opened easily. So
yeah, but that's definitely something that we're going to discuss very, very shortly. Just quickly, because you're a supporter of a team like myself that sort of is towards the lower echelons, the lower parts of the Premier League table. In terms of Brighton, sadly, relegation is something that we're very, very familiar with, and is abundantly not going to be in this competition. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it does. It brings us back to that point that the clubs aren't really interested in the footballing product. If they were that interested in the footballing product, you'd have done it. You'd have gone, okay, we want to build something better. And if you genuinely want to build something better, the very simple part of it is that you would have that. You would have multiple tiers. You'd bring in as many top level teams as you could. and you'd say, okay, we want to merge the European leagues. The money will be there to do it. If they'd have done that, if they'd have got the conventional top 5 leagues, okay, there would have been arguments from the likes of Portugal, Holland, maybe even Scotland or Belgium. But if they'd have brought everyone together and operated through cooperation, then you might have gone, this is what's happening. But the fact there's no relegation, the fact that these 15 clubs that, I mean, I've heard this, I'm not sure, again, we don't know what's true at the moment is the issue. There isn't enough clarity. It sounds like the 15 clubs are guaranteed 23 years in this league. Is what is being said. That their contract is being that is the length of the deal. It's going to be a 23-year commitment. And if you're signed up for 23 years and you're losing every other revenue stream in terms of every other competition, you're not going to want to get relegated. If you're Tottenham, you're not joining this on the proviso you can end up in the Super League 2. You wouldn't bother. You wouldn't even look at it. This is what's happening. I've heard it said a few times. It is an Americanization of football. It's franchise football. Gary Neville says it several times. I know he's been saying it tonight over at Sky Sports, what I've heard. That they would want it to be, and it has its benefits. Don't get me wrong, the NFL and the NBA and the MLB to differing degrees are all very well-run organisations that are great for owners. Absolutely fabulous for owners, and the sporting product we can talk about another time. But for them, it's the business. The business works. You can have at this point, you are 15 clubs that are guaranteed a slice of a very big pie. Whereas at the moment, the reason that Real Madrid and Barcelona are at the forefront of this is because La Liga cannot support them forever. Not in the footballing world we live in. The reason that Juventus and AC Milan and Inter Milan want to be involved, the footballing environment in Italy cannot support them forever. And the Premier League teams are operating out of greed. They want a bigger slice of a bigger pie. They're not going to get it in the Premier League. They tried it with a Project Big Picture. It didn't work. So this is what they went to. I imagine this was always in the back pocket. That Project Big Picture was purely a middle ground.
Just to sort of cue in Marc and Ese, I want to get you guys your thoughts. You're obviously the supporters of these teams. It's as fans of those clubs. How do you feel knowing that I don't know if Charlie and if you guys managed to watch it earlier on Monday Night Football when they interviewed Jurgen Klopp and Klopp's. Again, we don't know how much truth is in this, but Klopp has obviously said, I only found about it yesterday. So from his perspective, it seems like the players and the management, in terms of the coaching side of things, haven't been consulted at all. But definitely, the fans have not had any say in this whatsoever. So, Marc, how are you feeling as a Chelsea fan that your club has decided to take you as a fan into a league that you had no say in at all?
It's disappointing that the fans had no say at all, that they're just gone and done it without I suppose consulting really anybody about it. Like, they haven't consulted the clubs about it really, have they? I mean, kind of saying, this is our idea, what do you think, kind of thing, I'm not too sure if they've done that or not, but no, it is disappointing to see that the fans weren't I suppose asked about it or even consulted about it. No, as I said, I'm not really a great fan of this Super League, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
What could, before I go on to Ese and get his thoughts, what could change your mind? What would sway your mind and get you as a Chelsea fan supporting Chelsea in a Super League?
I'll always support Chelsea in whatever competition, but it's just I'm not a great fan of the Super League.
Would you watch it?
I probably would watch it because of my dedication towards my team. But yeah, just for the dedication that I've been a Chelsea fan for the last 15, 20 years. Yeah, just that's the only reason I'd watch it. Because my team's in it. If my team wasn't in it, I wouldn't watch it.
Why not? I mean, because it's being sold to us as this is the place where all the best players are going to be. Your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids. Like, why wouldn't you why wouldn't any football fan take the principle aside, look at it just purely on face value, ignoring all the politics and all the news bits around it, imagining it was a fresh new thing starting from today, with this league structure where there's the best players in a league. Why would you as a football fan not want to watch that?
I think I'd probably only watch it for maybe certain players. Like even the Champions League, being honest with you, I think I only watch it really when my own team is in it. Like I love the Champions League, but I think I only watch it when Chelsea are playing. I'd watch highlights of the Champions League to watch certain players. I think
Okay.
I'd prefer to watch more of the Champions League than the Super League. But that's if the Super League goes ahead.
That's a big if, and I want to cue in Ese then. Ese, I want to hear your thoughts. Give us your thoughts. You know, Arsenal. You've probably seen some of the videos on Twitter and social media. Fans singing Kroenke out. You know, what's your thoughts as an Arsenal fan? Ese, you there? Oh, there you are. Yeah. That was a deep breath. I do apologise. Yeah, far away.
Honestly, okay. I'm gonna have to take off my my sentimental goggles or whatever you call it, and just look at what positives a European Super League can bring. I think, along with existing rivalries such as the Manchester Derby or London Derbies, it can bring in new rivalries such as United Barcelona, because that was the 2009 and 2011 Champions League final, or we could see Chelsea v Real Madrid, or Liverpool v Bayern Munich, although German team just had enough joining, but they may change their minds on that. But yet still, we might bring in some new and historical rivalries as well.
There's certainly one angle, but you know, I just on that point. Do you feel like, you know, for example, let's look at the Scottish League. I know it's a completely different system here, but the showcase game is Rangers versus Celtic, and you know, how often is that played in a season? Well, it's played, I believe, 3 times minimum, or is it 4? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, of course it is, because they did a breakaway, and then you've got alongside that you've got cup competitions, and that's a historic derby. But you know, if we've got these kind of derbies and rivalries happening, you know, week in, week out, do you feel like it might cheapen it a little bit, if it's being repeated and rinsed and repeated? You know, is the fact that an Arsenal may play Barcelona once in every 3 years, or once every 2 years, or maybe even once a season, is that you know, making it more valuable than should they play them twice or 3 times or even 4 times in a season?
I get the sentiment about teams playing each other less often as what makes such a game more special. But if you look at the American leagues like the NBA and the NFL, you get some teams that play each other every year or every other year, and the rivalry is still there. Distant. If you look at the NFL, Minnesota Vikings and Seattle Seahawks have faced each other 3 times in a row, or even 4 times in the previous seasons. Hold on, let me just have a look at the Minnesota Vikings 2021 season. Hang on.
That's okay. that the NFL side of things does raise a really interesting debate, and there's another topic that we're going to come on to very, very shortly. So once SA finishes off his thoughts there, I do have one sort of follow up quickly for USA. As an Arsenal fan, would you support your team and would you watch the competition?
Look, I'd watch it starvingly, but again, I'd have to take off my sentiment goggles and say that I'd be open. I'd be open to it. But of course, when I first heard the news, I was just like, "Oh, no, this is bad. This is bad. It's against football. Oh, football's gone to the dogs and all that stuff." But sometimes with this, I feel I have to like put my sentiments to one side. I think more openly about this. And going back to the NFL, like Vikings and Seahawks have faced each other three seasons on the trot, and will face each other for the fourth season running later this year. And it's the same with them and the Cowboys, because the Vikings and the Cowboys faced each other, I think, in the 2019 season, last season, and will face each other again in the 2021 season. And the rivalry, well, I wouldn't call it a rivalry as such, but I think Viking Seahawks is more of a rivalry. But then there's something still there.
Yeah, I completely understand. And this is actually leads nicely as to what I want to move on to. And Marc, we'll start with you, but we'll go to Charlie straight after. Derbies and rivalries, and SA's just mentioned some franchises from other sports. Those franchises in American sports don't tend to stay to one location. So could we see a Manchester United or a Manchester derby, should we say, being played in China or in Dubai or in Qatar? Is this going to be a sort of a worldwide spectacle where we won't see a Manchester derby played in Manchester for a number of years?
I'm not really too sure. I haven't really heard that the Super League is going to be played abroad. My understanding was that, well, I assumed that obviously if Manchester United are at home to Man City, I'm guessing it'd be played at Old Trafford. I didn't really hear about anything of it being played abroad, but it is possible, yeah.
Would you be open to it?
No. Especially if the fans are coming back as well to football. I mean, you want to watch a Manchester derby, you want to watch it at the Etihad or Old Trafford, you know what I mean? Or even at Wembley for a neutral, like a cup semi-final or a cup final or something. You want to watch it in the country where the teams are, you know what I mean? You don't want to be going abroad just to watch a Manchester derby.
Charlie, do you fancy getting onto a plane, jetting off, and going to watch a Manchester derby in hot, sunny California or something like that?
I think to suggest that's not where we're heading is, again, maybe not necessarily looking at the trajectory of where we're going. I think what they're looking for, like I say, this is all about product. It's all about the product that can be sold. And if that product is better sold, if the Manchester derby takes place in New York, then that's what happens. Like the problem that we're seeing here, we're applying the idea of the American franchise system actually works really well. For the modern era, it works really well because it allows you to be fluid. It allows you to take advantage of new situations. In football, you don't really have that. There's not a chance. Say, for example, so with the American system, a city like Los Angeles didn't have a team for a long time, and now it's got two. In England, there isn't really that opportunity. So, in the European system, even you can't. If there was a city in Italy that suddenly became really popular, you can't just throw a team in and they'll be in the top level. Whereas I worry with this, how long will it be before they create their own franchises? before we see a team created solely out of the Super League because the demand is there. And how long before that? Because if you look at the name, everyone keeps calling it the European Super League. It's not called the European Super League. It's called the Super League.
Super League. Yeah.
How long before we see a team pop up, like an NFL, like a New York team or an Orlando team, or even further afield? We look at Buenos Aires. Like anywhere that there is money to be made, it will happen. And are they? They're not going to try and break up the MLS to do it. Are they going to? Maybe they'd look at a Boca Juniors and say, "Let's get you involved." But it's just, to me, the issue here is that you can't separate the emotion from the decision, because football is an emotion. Is probably more than, I'd say, more than most sports. The emotion of football is in everything that happens there. A refereeing decision is influenced by emotion. The finances of football are influenced by emotion. Everything that is there, everything that is part of and constituent of the sport is fueled by emotion. And the overwhelming emotion here is negative. I haven't really heard anyone give me really, really great reasons, and multiple reasons. I get the money is fantastic from a club. They're a business. They've got to make money. Fantastic. But don't expect to make as much when the fans really don't go for it. And I know that there's an internet. I feel like what is here, they've taken brands. They've almost tried to, it's really weird. They've almost tried to pull like the cinematic universe version of football, where they go, "Oh, you love Man United, you love Real Madrid. Watch them play each other all the time. Watch them fight against each other. Watch their players transfer between each other. Like, they are direct rivals now, whereas before, Chelsea, for example, haven't played Real Madrid in the Champions League in a long time. Like, the situation there is, it's gonna feel forced. It's gonna feel fake. It's gonna feel synthetic, because that's what it is. These rivalries aren't going to be real. They'll be put together by, we've put these teams in this group. So we've put the Manchester teams in one group. We've put Real Madrid and Barcelona in the other group. And then we'll sprinkle in a few others where they start to argue with each other. Like, this is all it's going to be artificial and synthetic. And they might keep those derbies in country. But if you're telling me that Real Madrid versus Juventus are involved, right? I'm trying to remember the full 12 teams in my head without getting one wrong. Real Madrid versus Juventus, there's no reason that's going to take place in Italy or Spain. It will be, like, they'll move it if the demand is there. If a city goes to them, look at the World Cup. The World Cup was taken to Qatar because of how financially viable it was.
Yeah.
For delegates as well as FIFA. Not going to get into that one. But if someone, like you say, if the Chinese government offer a good enough deal, or a Chinese individual or organisation offers a good enough deal, there'll be games played in Beijing. There'll be games played in Guangzhou. There'll be games played abroad, because the finance will be there. They'll want the money. They've proven that that's all they're worried about now. Because if they were worried about any other stakeholder in this situation, they wouldn't have done it. If they were worried about the players, you wouldn't have done it, because the players will now potentially have to choose between club and country. If you were worried about the fans, you wouldn't have done it, because, I mean, we've discussed all the reasons. If you're worried about any other part of the situation, you wouldn't do it. The money is the only reason this is being done, and that is the only reason in my head I can feel like it's being done, because the sport as it is works.
Yeah.
In the perfect situation, the sport we're in is lovely. It's regionalised. Then we go into the European competition, which is slightly more which is the continental real top stage. If you're a player, you want to win the World Cup and you want to win the Champions League, maybe the Euros or whatever, like domestic divisions, whatever. You want to win the World Cup, you want to win the Champions League. That is what players are compared on. Lionel Messi will not be considered, well, some people might not consider him the greatest of all time. I think it's nonsense, because he hasn't won a World Cup. If he isn't allowed to play in the World Cup, if he isn't allowed to play in it, then how do we compare people? How do we compare anyone? Like, how do you do anything? How does the emotion come from that? You can't sit around and go, Marcus Rashford has won 7 Super Leagues. The guy's the GOAT. And you'd be like, yeah, he played like 14 teams and some of them gave up after 3 games, because that's what will happen. As soon as you can't win, I'm not going to bother. And also, if you're an invited team, are you that bothered? Because you'll be out next time. Why would I be that bothered? Unless you're going to really incentivize it and say, okay, £10 million per win. Because at the moment, the Champions League is about 2.5. You're going to have to go over the top of that. You need to incentivize it. And then it'll fall apart. But yeah, carry on.
Brilliant. Let's bring in SA and SA. One thing I want to add before you say your bit is, Charlie's obviously mentioned about the World Cup and internationals. So I do want to gauge your thoughts on, will we see players, effectively drop out of a Super League to prioritise playing for country rather than playing in this top league where they're offered lots and lots of money for it?
I believe that UEFA and FIFA are just pulling their scare tactics, but behind the scenes, they're a part of it as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Lee Nelson throw fake money at Alexander Safran again, or
you think they're part of it? You think it's like some big plan? Do you think?
I believe so.
Okay.
Both UEFA and FIFA, they have no teeth, and we saw that. And we saw that with FFP. They're scaling Man City.
I don't think these situations compare, SA.
Oh.
This is a direct threat to the life of UEFA. If you don't think they're going to stamp on this, then you're going to be surprised by the next few days.
I mean, what can they do?
What's going to happen?
What? Yeah, go on in. What? Talk to us, SA. What do you think is going to happen?
In fact, before that, I hear earlier you mentioned that you'd want to see a Manchester derby in China, or he wants the Arsenal Chelsea in America. I mean, the International Champions Cup, for instance, United and Real Madrid played at the Rose Bowl, and loads of people turned out. So I'm sorry, but I don't buy the argument that no one would want to see a big game taking place in America or China, because everyone would want to see that.
But the problem, sorry, I don't mean to butt in here.
Sure.
But the problem here with that is that that's why I'm saying these clubs that do not have a conventional rivalry, by all means, play it where you like. It's just a game of football at that point. But if you're, I don't want a situation like the Europa League final a few years ago, where the final was played in Baku, in Azerbaijan, in a game between two London clubs. Because you're not going to get the same atmosphere. You're not going to get the same feeling. And that emotion won't be there. And even people that are vaguely interested in football, will watch it and go, oh, this is a bit rubbish. Like, why would I watch this? It's not going to feel the same.
And two of those London clubs are obviously represented here in terms of Marc and Ese. So, you guys probably have first-hand experience in that sense that, you supported a team that obviously playing in this that could have just been played a little bit more closer to home. But yeah, I want to go back to the internationals and the implications. Will we see players, and this is going to be, I think, something that players are going to have to juggle. If UEFA and FIFA mean what they say, is will we see players, decide to go with the money, or will we see players decide to play in these international competitions? And an added curveball, I think I heard someone say, just in passing, they were saying, well, those teams in the Super League, well, they'll create their own World Cup, or they'll create their own international competition. But surely that's not the same thing. So, Marc, what do you think in terms of internationals? Is there going to be a real stance from the players?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I mean, if you have players picking this, well, I highly doubt they'd pick the Super League over playing in the World Cup or the European Championships. I highly doubt it, but I mean, if they do choose the Super League, then we're gonna miss the World Cup. I don't think I'd watch the World Cup if I hadn't got the biggest players, Like Germany, if they haven't got I don't know, Thomas Muller, Serge Gnabry, all them type of players, I'm not going to watch Germany. I want to watch the World Cup for the big players, you know.
But then the flip side is, if they break away and then they then create this their own World Cup, you're then seeing it for the top players. But surely there's not going to be enough of them to represent
I think,
every
as you said,
nation.
it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same if they create their own. The World Cup is the World Cup. It's the World Cup and the European Championships is the only international football I watch. I don't watch the qualifiers or anything like that. But mainly that's probably because Ireland are terrible at football anyway. So, but that's the only international football I watch. So, it's not going to be the same if it's going to be a Super League World Cup type of thing.
SA, do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see managers like? There was supposed reports that managers might step away and might out of their interest and their for example, like Jurgen Klopp, who obviously went on record years and years ago saying that it was a bad idea and that doesn't interest him. Will we see the likes of Jurgen Klopp walk away from Liverpool, walk away from these Super League sides? Because they're going to form this Super League. Can you see that happening at all, SA?
Jurgen Klopp sounds like he's a man of principle, but unfortunately, principle doesn't get you anywhere. So you just have to follow one like a pawn almost, and just be like a yes, but it's like, yes, you're going to do this, yes, you're going to do this, yes, you're going to do this. Unfortunately, he has to be like that. He has to follow what his masters say, because otherwise he's not going to win. And it's a shame, really, but unfortunately that's the way it is.
And Charlie, what happens next? What happens next in terms of what can you see happening within the next few days? The remainder of this week. What can we expect to happen? What do you think?
I think there's a couple of ways this can shake out from this point. I think it really does depend on how these organisations react to the situation. There's a UEFA Congress on tomorrow, the 20th of April. There's talk that could lead to a temporary suspension of the Champions League while this is resolved. I'm not sure that'll happen. I think there's just too much on the line there. It's pretty easy to happen this year because there's no fans, so you haven't got to worry about that complication of it. I don't think the Premier League are going to act with any sort of teeth on this to start with. It won't happen. Nothing will happen in this season because there's just too much complication to come from it. It becomes, I think then as you start to move out from this week, it becomes harder to sort of look at where we're going because it does depend on the severity of the reaction. I mean, you look at the words of, I don't know to say his name, Ceferin. Is it Alexander Ceferin, the head of UEFA? His words where he did not hold back. He came with intent to go after people in this where he spoke earlier, where he talked about Andrea Agnelli at Juventus, who basically told him on Saturday, it's not going to happen. The Super League's dead. Nothing's going to happen. Sunday evening, Juventus announced they're in the Super League. The problem is that these bridges have been burnt, and not just burnt with the authorities. They've been burnt with, Jurgen Klopp has had less than 24 hours to put together his thoughts. And we're expecting him to be eloquent and to have come to a decision whether he would have done anything, beyond that. The issue for everyone involved is that they have to consider the situation, and there isn't not enough clarity right now on the intent of what's going to happen. When is the Super League going to start? Some people think it's going to be this August. Some people think it could be a couple of years down the line. There's just not enough clarity right now to know what everyone's intentions are, and it feels like we're playing this game of poker where everyone's like, "Oh, I've got pocket aces," and everyone's like, "Well, actually, I haven't got a clue what's in my hand. I've got no idea how this is going to shake out." Everyone's playing poker blind, and they're all just assuming it'll be fine. I think they're like, "Well, if we throw enough money at the problem, the Premier League will be fine with it, and we can play Premier League and Super League." And I just think the way the Premier League. So let's refine this down to the Premier League, because I'm not entirely in tune with how the politics of Serie A and La Liga work. But in the Premier League, if the other 14 clubs take really badly to this situation, you could see at a minimum heavy points deductions for next season. if not complete suspension or even complete, you are being let go from the Premier League. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen soon. There's a reason they've chosen to tell everyone this in April, because it gives the authorities very little time to organise. There is no response that's going to work in the next couple of weeks. It would have to be longer, and you just can't do that over a summer. So I just couldn't tell you what's going to happen longer than that.
No, I mean, you've articulated your thoughts really, really well there. I want to bring in Marc. Marc, in terms of the Premier League, should this breakaway happen, do you think the Premier League would still be in a good place? Like, could you see? Because certainly in my eyes, obviously I'm a Norwich fan, so you would hope that because players may see this sanction of international football and all this kind of thing, all the sanctions that come with it, some of those players may actually trickle down and the quality may be spread out a little bit more again, and it may be like a reset. What's your thoughts on that idea, Marc? I
think the only, I suppose, positive for the other clubs in the Premier League that are not in the Super League is that it gives the Premier League a better chance to kind of have like an underdog winner. So like, I mean, Leicester would probably be my top contender for the league title if all the big clubs left. But for me, I don't want this Super League to happen because, I mean, let's say, for example, Chelsea are playing against Brighton tomorrow. That's like, I'd love to have banter with Brighton fans. Like, you don't see many Brighton fans here in Ireland. So, I mean, like, I like having the banter with Brighton fans. I have West Ham fans in work I can have banter with. Or we're playing you in a couple of weeks' time. It's just pure banter. And I just think you'd miss that.
Let's cue in our Brighton fan then. Go on. He's triggered you. He's pressed the button.
No, I agree. I think the fact that we can have this sort of this rivalry between the teams, because there is a geographical sort of feeling to it, right? That if you're from a similar sort of location as different people, like is that where it comes in? I don't know. It's so difficult that basically we're being forced as fans now to go, oh, well, if they leave, we'll survive without them. Like, we'll be fine. And it's like, well, no, actually, I've seen a lot of people that have said that we need to like stay calm and not be angry. I think today is the day to be angry. I feel like tomorrow, I go into that game tomorrow as a Brighton player, I want to win that little bit more because their club has said that, oh, my club isn't anywhere near what their club is. I don't care if there are reasons supporting it, but I, as a footballer, so Brighton's chief executive Paul Barber or manager Graham Potter, they're not going to want to go into. They're going to want to go in tomorrow. Now they're going to want to get the players to snap into challenges. They're going to want to prove a point. And I think
extra motivation.
It's extra motivation. Yeah, it's easy, low hanging fruit now for the players. It is that would be my team talk done. You saw that on Sunday, right? They think they're better than you from the beginning, from the get go. They think they're better than you, without question. And that'd be it. That'd be all as a player I'd need.
Yeah.
In terms of SA, as we kind of get closer to coming to a close with this topic, I mean, there's so much more that we can discuss in so much more detail, but obviously we've got to move on to the other big news story this week, or well, today more so. But yeah, let's in terms of the Super League, these going back to what Charlie just said, what's your thoughts on that, and what's your thoughts on, I guess, the clubs that remain? What shape will they be in? Will the Premier League still be able to draw in crowds even if they don't have the likes of Man United and Liverpool playing in there? Who, coincidentally, that game always gets hyped up, Man United v Liverpool, but always seems to be a 0-0. Or
I'm going to be started on Red
game.
Monday.
Yeah, what do you think then, SA?
I believe the Premier League will still draw in crowds from, say, from England, of course, and parts of Europe. But as a wider market, no, because which fan from Australia or which average fan from Australia or Qatar or America would want to watch Burnley v Brighton? Let's be honest here.
That was
No,
uncalled for.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Probably the bad.
It's just two clubs that came to my
bad
mind.
choice.
Okay, I'll start again. Which club would want to watch
Oh, no,
Burnley
you weren't
v
wrong,
Leeds?
but it was uncalled for.
Okay, I apologize for that, but come on. I mean, I'm sure there'll be small pockets of fans from the Americas, Australia, or the Middle East that want to watch the Burnley game, but for the
Do you not-
masses, no.
Do you not think, as we project into the future, though, that if the Super League is a bit of a flop and that just doesn't have the attention, do you not think fans might go, well, this product's a bit rubbish. What are the alternatives? I like football. I liked football as it was. Oh, I know the Premier League. It has brand recognition. Like, I know the Premier League. Whether I know all the teams in it is kind of irrelevant. Like, if you're a fan of football and you get to the stage where you're interested just in the sport, are you going to be that interested in because the football in the Super League is going to be bad. It's not going to be high level football all the time because teams will become defensive. Every time, almost every time. There's a few examples I can think of. But when you see these big teams play each other in the Champions League, it's never end to end, like barely ever end to end football all the time. It's very cagey. It's very nervous. It's very sort of, oh, I don't want to lose here. And if there is more on the line in a league game, you're not going to play open, expansive football as a manager because there's money on the line, and your owner's made it clear that's the only thing that matters.
And that's the issue. And that was the issue with the or away goals rule with teams being cagey. Like someone's even been off forever. And the issue with that I see is that if you're going to take away the away goals rule, then why have second legs?
Well, I think we may be getting away from the point a little bit here, but
sorry.
No, that's all right.
Sorry, that's
another discussion. I'm bad for it. So
that's okay. Let's move it to and as we get to the end now, I want to touch on the subjective nature of choosing the big six or choosing some of these teams. Like, let's say, is there any other team that you feel has missed out, and what criteria do you think has been applied here?
You know what? With that Super League thing, I'd really like to see more of the historical clubs, like clubs like Everton, clubs like Villa, Leeds, Newcastle, those sort of clubs, not the clubs that have been bought by a rich daddy like City and Chelsea. Not those clubs. No way.
Okay, Charlie, who would you like to see? Who's missed out, and what do you think criteria wise they've applied?
Well, I mean, I've just done a little bit looking up. I don't know if you're looking at this, so I went and had a quick look. I'm looking. So out of the top 14 clubs in the Deloitte Money League, which is basically a ranking of teams by their yearly revenue. If you're looking at 2019-20 revenue, out of the top 14 teams, only 3 of them aren't in this Super League.
Who are
Dortmund, Atletico. Oh, sorry, 4. No, 4 out of the 14. Apologies. 4 out of the 14. So Dortmund, Atletico. Sorry, not Atletico. Dortmund. Oh, it's only 3. Dortmund, PSG, and Bayern. Apologies. Maths is hard.
We got
yeah, we got there in the end. And so that's what they've picked them by. You don't pick Tottenham or Arsenal based on footballing ability this season. One is 9th, and the other one can't seem to get a manager for more than 2 years at this point. Like, what they've done is they've gone around and gone, okay, let's have a look at the top 20 clubs in this money league. Who are we going to take? Well, everyone in the top 10 we'd want. They'd want Bayern Munich and PSG at the end of the day. PSG are too ingrained with UEFA to go anywhere apart from them. They've also got a bit of a conflict of interest with the Qatar World Cup, so they wouldn't do it until after that. Bayern Munich, any German team is going to struggle to join because of the 50+1 rule, which I think we need to really look at implementing in England. because the fans just won't go for it and they won't have the vote to do it. They won't be allowed to go and do it. And so then you look beyond that. Zenit and Petersburg are in 15th. They've talked about joining. They won't because their owner, Gazprom, sponsors the Champions League. Again, vested interest. So they've looked through. Schalke was talked about yesterday as being a team that were invited. I think they've said no. The fact they were invited is crazy. They're 16th. They just got relegated from the Bundesliga. They're 16th in the Money League. That's why they were linked with it and being asked about it. So yeah, I expect to see Everton are in 17th. I expect Everton to be one of the first teams that get invited because they're trending in that direction. They are very much in the position Tottenham were 5 to 10 years before they broke through into the Champions League with Pochettino. They are building something. They're looking at specifically building a stadium. If they had that all in place right now, Everton would have been invited. I think that's the long and short of it. The money is the biggest pull. That's just the long and short of it, to be honest.
Okay, Marc, what do you think? Any clubs missing?
Leicester City. Leicester City are a club that I'd say since 2016, and especially under Brendan Rodgers, have risen up. So 2015 they were about to get relegated, and now they're in the top 4, top 5. So why aren't Leicester City up there? Because they haven't probably got the money.
Do you not think that you maybe answered your question a little bit in the question where you're talking there about a club that aren't? If you're looking at it from I'm looking at it from what I perceive to be their position. A club like Leicester aren't necessarily a stable big club. They've kind of had last 6 or 7 years. Well, that's what I'm saying. So if in a couple of years, this is where it gets a bit skewed. This is why they want the 5 places to go to teams that can qualify, which I imagine if they can really do it will be the 5 teams, 1 from each major European country, would be my guess. So France, England, Germany, Italy, Spain, they'll try. And maybe they'll throw an Ajax or a Porto in or a Benfica. And so I worry that if Leicester for that reason.
Yeah. Any others there, Marc?
Well, without disrespecting any of the Arsenal and Tottenham, I wonder why they've been added in. Mainly because I look at if their criteria is on history, which I'm guessing it's not, but if it was, why are Arsenal and Tottenham being put in? Because Tottenham haven't won a league title since the 60s. They haven't won a European trophy since the 60s. Arsenal's last league title was 2004. Yeah, when they went unbeaten. And then Arsenal still haven't won a European trophy, so I don't see why they've been added in when there's maybe better clubs that could be added in.
I think we know why.
Money solves all.
Money. Yeah.
You mentioned Tottenham.
Yeah, go on.
You mentioned Tottenham. They haven't won a pot since what? The 2008 League Cup final.
Yeah, last trophy was 08.
Right.
I don't think trophies are necessarily a great barometer, though.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is their criteria for it.
Yeah.
But I think even if I was to assemble a Super League, I don't know if I'd assemble it based on trophies.
No.
I think there is maybe
a
combination of ways.
If I was a Super League myself, I wouldn't put Tottenham and Arsenal in it, to be honest with you.
I think Tottenham have been to a Champions League final recently, and Arsenal have been to a Europa League final recently, and they're both sort of perennial, like late European teams. And I think if you were to put a list together of 12 clubs, okay, maybe if your PSG and Bayern Munich are in there, Dortmund are in there, maybe they fall out. But I think of the top 20, you'd probably say Arsenal and Tottenham are in there.
Very quickly then, as a final point on this, and I want to get everyone's thoughts on this. Will it work? Obviously we're awaiting details. There will be more details, but at this stage right now, what's your gut feeling? Will it work or won't it work? Let's start with SA. SA, will it work? Won't it work?
Look, I'm going to have to play devil's advocate here and say that, in a sense, I hope it works for the casual fan. But speaking as a fan who's been supporting a club for years, I'd say I hope it doesn't work.
Okay. Let's go to Mark then. Mark?
I'm kind of the same as Eze, to be honest with you. Yeah, I have the same opinion as Eze, really. I suppose for maybe the smaller clubs, I suppose they hope it does work. Because it might have a more to be a different Premier League winner, basically.
Okay. Charlie? Sorry, Mark.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Go on ahead, yeah.
Okay, I'm very simple. My hope and my estimation is probably the same thing. I hope it falls on its face. I hope it splutters itself out within a decade, which I think it probably will. Because if I'm being honest, there isn't enough stability behind it. There is not enough track record to prove this will work. No one in any sport has been able to make this work. And football is unique. Football could make it work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, okay, actually, I'm thinking about it. Rugby is maybe an example where something similar has worked. But this is scale is a different beast altogether. I hope it fails. It sets the wrong precedent. That money is king and that is it. Sport doesn't matter anymore. We're here for money. We want your cash. I couldn't care less what the product looks like on the pitch.
Okay, well, brilliant. Thank you very much, chaps. Before we finish tonight, let's talk about the other big story. Jose Mourinho departing from Tottenham. Obviously, today is a good news day to bury that story with all the Super League stuff out. So let's go to Mark first. Tottenham, were they right to get rid of Mourinho?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he's been the same Mourinho since the Inter Milan days, really. Maybe early Madrid, but nah, he hasn't been the same Mourinho. I genuinely thought it actually would work. Mourinho at Tottenham, he would maybe win a trophy, but obviously, yeah, he's not even getting a chance to play the Carabao Cup final. But yeah, no, I suppose it's probably better now for Spurs fans that he's gone. Maybe make Spurs a little bit more competitive.
There's a question mark and a raised eyebrow on that one. Charlie, what on earth has happened in terms of Tottenham getting rid of their manager 6 days before a cup final? Surely something must have happened there.
I think there's a couple of. I'll get to the larger point afterwards, but they buried the lead. Is what they've done. Their position with fans couldn't be much worse after last night. So why not just pull the trigger on something like that might divide the fans? Because it's a net positive for them to get rid of him today, except for the financial part of it, which is definitely not a positive. And surprising from Daniel Levy, actually. But I'm guessing over 100 million at least coming in from a Super League is probably going to make you do funny things. And yeah, I do actually feel slightly bad for Mourinho because he hasn't. This was arguably his toughest challenge since maybe Porto. Chelsea, everything was in place because he's tried to build a team from scratch, or not from scratch, but from they were at their lowest point confidence-wise after Pochettino had left, maybe even after the Champions League final. And so he was kind of given. I mean, how many transfer windows has he had? 3 since he was appointed. Yeah, it's 3, right? He's had 2 Januaries in the summer, and look at the state of those windows that they've been in as well. That first January, you're not going to do much because it's his first window. He'd only been there a month, and then a pandemic hits, and you can't do much in the summer window anyway. You look at the way they did business. Look at what happened. It's not great all round from them. And I think he has been left with players he clearly didn't rate. And he probably did need another couple of windows to get it to where he wanted. And now whether Tottenham would have been in the place they wanted to be in those couple of windows is okay. That is where I think he's been fired for. If they'd have been around the top 4, I mean, it does surprise me. I don't know why they've sacked him. I actually am thinking about it because you can't sack him for not getting top 4 because you've just made that irrelevant. What are you sacking him for? Like, are you sacking him because you want to win a cup final and you think Ryan Mason will do a better job?
Like, I mean, it's questionable, isn't it? It's questionable how
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense that you sack someone, with the ambition of that person joining the club and bringing trophies. They've got you to a final. Like, he's a proven manager. He's a winning manager. Like, give him the chance to go and do a final. I don't know. Ese, help me out here. You know, you're on the flip side of this, being an Arsenal fan, but surely there's got to be some sanity in this decision somewhere. Surely.
Yeah. As was just said, I can't get my head around the thinking behind sacking a manager. Like, literally, what 6 days before a crucial cup final. I can't get my head around that one. Like, how do the players prepare for that final now? It doesn't make sense. Like, especially when they have a chance to end their trophy drought that's gone for 13 years. Oh, mind-boggling. Really mind-boggling.
You know what? It feels like 30 years, but I think it was 2008 when the last League Cup, wasn't it? I forget the manager of that team. Does anyone remember the manager?
One day Ramos.
I think it was.
That's the one. Yeah. That was an interesting final, that one. But yeah, I mean, across the board, and this will be sort of the question on this. Do you guys think that the decision was right for Mourinho to go, or do you think that it was maybe too soon? And I'll start with Ese this time and then work back. So Ese, do you think it's right for Mourinho to go, or do you think it was too soon?
Look, at this stage of the season, how many games were left of the league season?
I think there's about 5 in there. I could be wrong. I think it varies team to team. You guys help me out because you're all Premier League supporters. So,
so it's about maybe 6 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 6 games
left for some people.
Okay, 6 games left of the season, and this is a time to sack a manager. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Like, were Tottenham doing any better in November or December?
No.
I mean, they were around that time. They were challenging for the title, weren't they? I could be wrong.
Were they?
In sort of that November time. Charlie, help me out here. Do you remember? It could have been before then, maybe. Oh, we've lost Charlie. I can't hear Charlie. I can see his
Hello.
lips.
Yep. I have a button on my mic which I forgot to turn off, evidently. Yeah, their form's kind of been pretty rubbish all season. Like, it's not been outstanding at any point. And yeah,
honestly, I don't understand what Daniel Levy was thinking about hiring Mourinho. Like, it's like they thought, Tottenham fans thought, yes, we're getting Mourinho. We're going to be winners again. They thought they were going to get Chelsea Mourinho, but instead they got United Mourinho.
Yeah. I mean, just to come in on that, obviously it's not worked out as planned, but I do think, on face value as a neutral looking in, you go, wow, that is a big appointment when you bring in Mourinho. That showed real intent for Tottenham. And like I say, he's a winning manager. Like, he's had great track record. So yeah, I don't know. I think he should have been given. There's nothing that can really be achieved without him. I mean, put it this way: if they win the final, you could argue that they could have still won that final with Mourinho. But if they lose the final, you're also going to have that question. Well, should you have sacked a manager on the week of your final? I think it just doesn't sit right with me at all. Mark, too soon or right decision, get rid now.
No, not get rid now. No, definitely not. Not 6 days before a cup final and with 6 games left in the Premier League season. End of the season, it makes sense. Obviously, if they don't get top four and they lose the final, it makes sense to get rid of him at the end of the season. But no, not now. No. But
And
then
finally,
as well, who is there out there next season to get? What manager is out there to get to replace him?
I am a bit worried about Graham Potter.
Graham Potter plays good football.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
Go on then, Charlie. Let's go with the question first, and then we'll just return to everyone. Let's open it up and see who we got suggestion wise for Tottenham to get. But what's your thoughts? Too soon or right decision to get rid now?
I actually think both. Like, doing it now in the context of the whole context that Daniel Levy, and he would have been the one to pull the trigger, is operating under. Now was the time. If you're not going to keep him after the end of the season, he's gone. Get him gone now. Get it done. Clean slate. Players get 6 games just to prove themselves. And with the Super League, and if, for example, we get to a point where all these 6 teams know they're not in the Champions League next year. They know it's not going to happen because they're all going to be in the Super League. What is there to play for? There is nothing to play for in the next 6 games, so you might as well just sack him now.
A League Cup?
Do they care about a League Cup?
Well, I mean, it's their only trophy they've won.
Yeah, I know, but in the grand scheme of the club, I think they're also... I wonder if their thought process is, let's give Ryan Mason 6 games. I wonder if maybe as a coach, they've been someone's fed through that he's really impressive as a coach. Because I think I've heard that he's quite good as a coach. And I wonder if they're like, well, if he has 6 games and wins them all, and he wins the League Cup, we'll just give him the job. Like we'll just do it for him, and everyone will love it. It'll be basically it's their own version, weirdly, of a Solskjaer and Arteta, or even a Frank Lampard, however well that went. Their own sort of, he's our man. He'll come in and we'll be happy. And I wonder if that's maybe their thought process, or if now maybe. If not being in the Champions League next year, and they know they're not going to be in the Champions League next year, if they've confirmed it privately, then I think Mourinho, there was a clause, right, if they didn't get into the Champions League. Now, the legal side of that, becomes a bit of a mess, but I wonder if they know something has happened and are happy just to move on.
Fair enough. Okay, final points then. Let's go round. Suggestions for new Tottenham manager. Charlie, any names that pop into your head?
Massimiliano Allegri.
Yeah.
Free agent, has been learning English, wants to live in London. Kind of seems like a slam dunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any others? No, let's go to Ese then. Ese?
Look, I'm just... They should have sacked Pochettino, to be honest. He was like that, like their best manager since Harry Redknapp. Honestly, they really sacked Pochettino. He was doing a great job at Tottenham. Honestly,
not that season, not then though. It was pretty atrocious. Like the bottom had fallen out, and it was clear that it had fallen out.
That was like you sack a manager after they reached their first ever Champions League final, though. I don't know.
Ranieri was sacked 6 months after winning Leicester the league. If decisions get made.
Leicester were doing badly though. I mean, they were gearing closer towards the relegation places at the time. But they were doing well in Europe though. But I don't know.
Whole nother discussion, that one. Let's go to Marc quickly before we wrap up. Marc, give us some names. Anyone?
I'm genuinely right. I'm after Googling managers that are like unemployed now at the minute. And
do they have to be unemployed? I mean, my person.
Well, I just looked at unemployed.
Brendan Rodgers wouldn't take the Tottenham job.
They don't have to be unemployed, but I mean, I'm just looking at unemployed managers, and I
could see them going for Hasenhüttl.
Not a bad, not a bad
In
suggestion.
the same vein that they went after Pochettino.
Who do you think then, Mark?
Do you know what? I think one name that's cropped up is Maurizio Sarri.
Oh God.
I know.
That would be
That's a bit
controversial.
like, I don't know. I mean, I experienced Sarri's football as a Chelsea fan. His football, Sarri ball, not great. I mean, yeah, he won us the Europa League, but I didn't think his
But
football was that great, to be honest.
Tottenham wouldn't complain if it won them the Europa League. But
Yeah.
hey ho, they may not even be in it. So that's another discussion for another day. Gents, thank you so much. I know we could keep talking about this for a long time, especially the Super League, and I know we will. I think this is going to be a topic that, when more details come out, we will probably fine tune and focus on. So for those that are listening in, thank you for sticking it out, because it's such a wide spectrum at this stage as to what it is. And I don't think anyone really knows for certain what direction it's going to go in. So yeah, thank you for sticking around. Gents, do you guys mind sharing your socials? We'll start with Charlie then. Charlie, kick us off. Social media, how can we follow you?
Oh, I've got to pick now. You can find me on Twitter. It's where I talk my most nonsense. So at Charlie Pumfrey on Twitter, you can find me.
Okay, perfect. Marc?
So I play a lot of Football Manager, and my Twitter account is FM_WonderKids. If you play Football Manager and you need some Wonder Kids, I'm the one to find. So FM_WonderKids.
Yeah, I saw Charlie's eyes light up there. So
Someone said Wonder Kids.
Essay.
So my Twitter is at A96OAYE_1.
Brilliant. Mine is at Danny Cook 1996 for all things Norwich and hopefully Premier League related. You can follow me on that on Twitter. Gents, thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you for coming on. Thank you to those that have been listening. You can, of course, catch up on any of our previous podcasts. They are available all on Spotify or on our YouTube channel. Just have a look for Halftime Cuppa. They'll come up in the search pretty much straight away. We're a unique podcast with a unique name, so it'll come up as and when you search for it. Please feel free to reach out to us as well on social media. Share your thoughts on the Super League. We would love to hear those. And until next time, thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe and goodbye.
See ya.
See ya.
Goodbye.